Hello, my little patriots. Welcome back to GOPO today, or maybe tonight, depending on when you watch this. We are going to learn about the judicial branch. We're going to step into sections 1 and 2, and we're going to look at how they are considered like the least dangerous branch, but actually have a lot of power. So we're going to explain today, sections 1 and 2, why federal court justices are appointed rather than elected, and describe how the Constitution structures the federal judiciary. Okay, so the federal judiciary is the branch of the federal government and whose sole role is to interpret and apply the laws to the nation. So in the Constitution, the only thing that's mentioned is the Supreme Court. It's the highest level, but there are appellate and district courts and special legislative courts below it that all deal with the federal law too. They're never elected. They are always appointed, and they have a tenure for life. And this is explained in Fed 78, which you guys are reading for the class. And it's definitely become more powerful over time. They were kind of like the forgotten branch, and then all of a sudden they became really, really powerful, especially in the 20th century. Okay, so sorry I'm going to keep moving myself up and down, but I just don't want to be in the way. So they wanted to make sure that they were independent, and it was essential for preserving liberty and upholding the checks and balances. They wanted them to be, the founders wanted them to be isolated from the other branches, because that way they could kind of, as much as they can, stay out of politics and be as unbiased as possible and follow solely the rule of law rather than any type of political biases. Now, sometimes the way that it works, states, remember, we have a dual court system where we have the national government, the state governments, because of federalism. So states get to make their own courts. They get elected, which is kind of a conflict of interest, because if you're making campaign promises while getting elected for a spot as a judge, you're going to bring in politics to your decision making when it really needs to be black and white. So they try to the federal government decided we want to keep them completely independent. We don't want them to be elected because that makes them more impartial or unbiased. They aren't tied to a big donor or anything like that. So how do you get the job of a member of any of the courts? And we're going to talk specifically about Sotomayor today. Basically, you have to get appointed by the president. You get chosen by the president, nominated by the president, and then you have to get confirmed by the Senate. They'll have a hearing, then they have a vote. President Obama did this with Sonia Sotomayor in 2009. She had experience, she was a prosecutor, she was a solicitor that was Kagan, sorry. She was a judge on the Court of Appeals, U.S. Court of Appeals in the 2nd District. But she was super liberal, and that made people concerned. But in reality, it didn't matter, because Obama was president, the Senate was run by Democrats. And he was popular at the time, he could push that nominee through very easily. And we see that not only with presidents at the beginning of their presidency, but also when the president and the Senate are both in charge by the same party. So like right now, you have Trump and the Republicans ruling the Senate. He can get usually his Supreme Court choices through very easily, which he's already gotten 2 and has a possibility of a 3rd coming up. It also helps the fact that she not only was a person of color, but also a woman. And a lot of Republicans kind of feared saying no to her, even though her beliefs were very much against them. They didn't want to look like they were being in any way, shape, or form racist or misogynistic. So looking at this, we need to look at what are the disadvantages of electing judges at a state level. We talked about this. It can cause bias. And are unelected judges really a part of a representative democracy? Of course, we don't get to elect them, so that's not really we the people choosing them. So there's goods and bads to both. All right, next we're going to look at the Constitution and how the federal judiciary is in it. Basically, it's the 3rd article because it's considered the 3rd branch. They did that on purpose. They put Article 1 as Congress because they felt that should be the most important than the president and the judiciary. Only Supreme Court's mentioned, but in Article 1, it says that Congress can create federal courts. So that's where all the district and appellate and legislative courts come into. So the Supreme Court is highest in the land. They basically they can look over anything. They have any type of jurisdiction, original, exclusive, appellate, state, concurrent. They can take any type of court case they want, and they get to choose the case, which is nice. But the other courts at that level, like the district courts, the lowest courts, they only get original jurisdiction and they can only hear federal cases. Whereas the appellate courts can only hear things on appellate jurisdiction or a case on appeal. You don't like your decision in the first case, you appeal it, and that's where it goes to the next level. And right now, this is a little bit off. Obviously, just recently, RGB died. But this is the other 8 that are currently serving on the Supreme Court. In the bottom, you have Breyer, who leans left. You've got Thomas, who leans right. You have Chief Justice Roberts, who leans right. RGB did lean left. Alito leans right. In the top, left to right, you have Gorsuch. He leans right. Sotomayor, who I just talked about recently, she leans left. So does Kagan. She leans left. And then Kavanaugh leans right. So right now, the balance is 5-3. And then if President Obama does appoint a conservative, the balance would be 6-3. These are appointments for life. So that's a lot of decisions that would lean more conservative for probably a generation. Now, the Judiciary Act of 1789 is what basically gave Congress the right to build these lower courts. Whoops, let me go back. So you can see, like I was saying before, the lowest court is the U.S. District Courts, and they have original jurisdiction. They try the courts first. About 80% of the cases at the national level happen there. U.S. Court of Appeals, they take the neck. They're kind of the gatekeepers to keep cases from going to the Supreme Court, but they can take cases themselves, and they don't take very many, about 100 a year. And they get to choose. The other ones are just told they have to take them, and they get to choose what cases they want. So how do you get appointed? Well, like I said, you get nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate, just a simple majority. And they are basically, they pick people that they feel are a little bit younger, but do have experience, can endure getting through everything without like major influence by the by politics. And they definitely, presidents are going to pick people who have the same political ideology as they have. As long as, yes, they're supposed to be impartial, but we're all partial, we're all biased in one way, shape, or form. And we lean certain ways, no matter how unbiased we try to be. So you find the one that kind of leans towards your ideology. But of course, confirmation heavily affects bipartisanship. Of course, the Joe Biden rule that was created a couple decades ago said in an election year you should never do a Supreme Court replacement. Well, that was also when George W. Bush was president and the Senate was dominated by Democrats, okay, and he was a Republican. And then we saw this in 2016 where they refused when Justice Scalia died. And the Senate, run by Republicans, refused to have a hearing for President Obama's choice, Merrick Garland, because they said, well, you know what? No, it's an election year. Well, 2020, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and it's an election year, and the Republicans rule the Senate, and the president is a Republican, and they said, no, we're gonna have a hearing this year. We're not gonna follow that rule. That rule's only used when the party is different from the president in the Senate. It's very partisan. It's very intense, especially if you saw any of the stuff with Kavanaugh. That was super intense. Are there any formal qualifications? No. But basically, the president knows that these people, if they have the same ideology as the president, could shape policy for years past their tenure of office. So they want people of the same mindset as them. Number one, hands down, number one. Number two, you want to have people that are qualified, that have had experience, that are ethical, that aren't going to get, do things that'll come back to bite them, that don't have like really any skeletons in their closet. Do they consider race, ethnicity, and gender more so today? I mean, President Trump, before he even says his nomination, says it's going to be a woman. So that is considered more today than it used to be. But remember, justices once they are appointed, they're not puppets. They don't have to do everything the president wants them to do. They can do their own thing. I mean, Justice Roberts has done a lot of things, made a lot of decisions that really go against what the right would consider the right thing to do. So looking at this, why do you think the Founding Fathers wanted the federal judiciary to be independent? Why did the Founding Fathers give judiciary less power than the other branches? Number one, just remember, why do they want them to be independent? Why do we have it so we don't elect them? Because we don't want bias. But at the same time, they knew since they weren't elected, and that was very much like anti-democracy, they wanted to make them the least powerful. So leaving you at that, go work on an FRQ, see how you do. I will talk to you later. Bye.